Welcome to another edition of Over It with your host, Michael English. On today's show, we have a very special guest. He has described himself as a celebrity graphics artist. He is known as Steve Cas. We want to see what happens when he gets around a microphone. One thing for certain, we're going to be styling and profiling. Hey, has anybody seen my thermos? These pretzels are making me thirsty. I'm your sometimes airbrushed host, Michael English, and this is a very special Over It. I say that because we're on remote, a super secret remote this time, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. Steven has welcomed us to his home, and we sit here in your comfortable studio.
Yes, well thank you, Michael, for being here with me and allowing me to just share my space with you and your audience. I'm truly honored to be on your show. I've seen some of the stuff you're doing. It's absolutely amazing. I think you're super talented, and I think merging your artwork with my artwork is going to be amazing for the audience.
You were born right here in Harlem, just grazing the rooftops, Steve, if you would. Give me some of the details, the greatest hits of your growing up and how you lived.
Well, yes, I grew up in Harlem, USA.
Yeah.
Next to the Apollo Theater, which is a very famous theater that many artists were at. So growing up in that neighborhood and to see the lights of the Apollo Theater and just being a kid, and it inspired me. So Harlem actually gave me an inspiration that many didn't.
What a gift. I mean, think about it. That backdrop.
Yes.
And at that time, I'm gonna dial us up a little here, but in the 80s, right?
Yes, 80s, yeah.
So, 125, Harlem, you're growing up. Is your family large, small?
I had a small family, but they were very artistic. My mom is an artist, and so was my grandmother.
Oh my.
So growing up in a family of art, to me it was like, as a kid, I used to ask the other kids, like, what do you mean you don't draw? I thought everybody was an artist,
Oh, so you would question other people's...
Yeah.
Well, they probably did draw, but just never exercised it. You know what I mean? I think art is in everybody. Art's in our cameraman here doing a bang-up job. Art is in the guy throwing the ball around with his German Shepherd down the street. Art is everywhere, right?
Absolutely. And inspiration is everywhere. And that's what Harlem definitely gave me, a platform to be inspired. And just
to the tens, I would think.
Yeah.
So Steve, when did you really decide you were an artist? When did that moment come in your childhood?
Well, it was in second grade. They had like an art show, and I participated in the art show in second grade, and I won first place, and I was like, wow, I really did.
Do you remember the art? Do you have a picture of it?
I don't have a picture of that one, but it was some Marvel characters. It was like the Iron Man and Captain America, and so.
And it just blew the doors off the competition.
Yeah, it was like.
Second grade.
Yeah, second grade, and I'll never forget walking up to the auditorium on the stage, and I remember the stairs, how big they were, because I was so small, and I'm climbing the stairs up to get my little award.
Have you been? Is the school still open?
Yes, it's PS 129, which is also in Harlem. Yeah.
And the schools, have you visited as a grown man to
I
take those stairs
visited.
again?
I would love to, but I have not had that opportunity.
So it was kindergarten to sixth grade.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
got it.
PS public school.
Your skill set is multi-pronged, as we look around the room, and we will later with some of your tools and medium. But explain to the audience what you work in, like, just to the average art person, you'd say, well, I work in airbrush and gouache, and people are like, what's that?
Right.
You say, but what's your go-to?
Well, I started out as a traditional 2D artist, which is pencil and paper, and then I would go on to markers, and then I started doing the airbrushing. But then that wasn't enough for me, and then I wanted to make things bigger and more impactful. So as a kid, I started doing graffiti, and I started doing some graffiti on the train, and even that wasn't enough. I wanted to paint the whole entire train, and but.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Don't let me forget about that.
Okay, we will. So on top of just having the traditional skills, I've been able to adopt the knowledge of the 3D, where I'm a sculptor. I can sculpt anyone or anything and make it look like it actually exists. Whether the person is there or not, if I have the right reference, I can sculpt, and I learned how to do forms and anatomy, and I can also animate them and move. So I have a little bit of the whole spectrum. Yeah.
So when you say sculpt, you're actually having a machine make a tangible item
Yes.
from your 3D render?
Yes. It's like clay, but now it's a digital form. It's called wireframes, and the wireframes have what's called polygons, and these little square boxes are the ones that the more you have, the more intricate you can get into your sculpt.
Oh my.
So the capabilities of the program that I've been using it now for about 18 years. I started in version 1 and 2, and only because it was a little bit more organic, and I was able to get the forms that I needed to get out with that idea and that creativity I had in my mind. And even then, it was still a challenge because you have to, it's not like drawing with a pencil and paper where you're putting your idea right away. You have to click here, click there, do this, go through a menu. So the technical part of the sculpting process took away from the creative part.
Slowed you down.
Yes. So, but now I've been able to form my own keyboard with my own commands, and since I draw with both hands, I'm able to actually fluctuate.
I'm told that.
Yeah.
We'll perhaps get to see that in action a little bit later.
Sure, absolutely.
Both hands, and you designed your keystrokes and your commands to help.
Yes, yes. So now, if you were to put me at a job and I didn't bring my plugin that showed my key, my personalized, customized keyframes and keystrokes, then I would look like I don't know what I'm doing. But
it keeps it a secret for you. That technique is your secret.
Yes, yes. Well,
Your
a lot of
secret
artists are
weapon.
doing it, but I've done it for, my keyboard has been set up for years. So anytime I'm doing something, there's certain keyboard settings too. If I'm going to be doing portraits, I know that I'm going to be transforming and moving the geometry in a certain way. So I have the keyboard commands to allow me to do that. If I'm doing something more hard body, hard surface, now I have a different keyboard where I know I have my creases and my folds and yeah. So
For instance, I mean, what's around us on the walls all had different technique and medium.
Well, what's behind me is it's my cast tunes. Instead of cartoons, they're cast tunes with the S on it. And this was traditional drawing, and I was able to fill it in with color and then scan it into the computer, then add a little bit more touch-ups and highlights and put it in the environment. So nothing here is really 3D. It's all traditional hand drawing and just Photoshop and shades. Now the one behind you, Mandela,
yeah.
that is a completely 3D dimensional sculpt that I did from, it starts as a sphere, and then I start pushing and pulling, developing.
The clay, the digital clay.
And then with the lighting within the program, I'm able to see how the forms are, because it's about form and it's about gesture, it's about composition. So it's no longer one flat drawing from one angle. Now you're able to move the drawing and capture the way the lighting is. So with the light, I'm able to shade and just see the forms.
Wow.
So,
That's something that the technology has again given an artist much more flexibility.
And the great thing about it is that I've started with this program about 17 to 18 years ago. So in the industry back then, I was into 3D, but I couldn't get the forms that I wanted. It was too choppy and it looked very digital and computerish, like the 1986 Tron kind of computerish, which is a fantastic movie, by the way.
I'm going to touch on that for a second. What, as a younger person, let's say when you were first getting started or really taking off, what was the art that influenced you? Was there an artist? Was there a typical style of art, or no one particular or many?
Well, it was confusing at first because I always, when I looked at something that inspired me, I wondered how they created it, how they got there, how they got to a point in their life where they're able to accept and feel confident enough to do something like that. Because at that point I wasn't there yet. Whether it's a portrait, whether it's just a scenery, as long as it looked right, because us as humans, we're used to seeing everything that we've looked at throughout our lives, that we get immune to certain things. But even if the artwork is not correct, someone that can draw may not be able to tell you what you did wrong, but they can look at it and see that there's something not right with it, you know? So when I would see artwork that did look like there was nothing wrong with it, it looked correct, it inspired me to say how. So growing up, I was always told, you're gonna have to go to school and get the right training and this, and I was open to it. Unfortunately, I was not able to go to art school. Now, people sometimes don't understand. I am educated. I just never went to an art school, and I never sat like in an art class. So, but that, not having that opportunity, it inspired me to try harder because of my parents. They never stopped believing in me.
Oh, that's wonderful,
Yeah.
because mom was an artist and she came
Right.
from an artistic family.
Yeah, and she never
There was
took an
never
art
a no,
class.
that's not going to make any money. No,
Yeah.
please be a doctor. Please,
Yeah,
none of
no,
that.
it was never none of that. No.
I think art school, and maybe check me if I'm wrong, can stymie some artists from getting to where they want to be. In other words, they went in there, they know they want to do graphic novels, they have got a kind of a style, but then they go to the art school and they've got to do all this other stuff, and then their style just dissipates, and I don't know.
Well, because you
Elaborate.
said that, I realized also that as I was growing up, that my ambition, and because of my parents that showed me they believed in me, they encouraged me to just do the best I can, no matter what. So when I applied for a high school in New York that was specific just on art, they denied me. They saw my portfolio and said, "You're not accepted to the school." Meanwhile, I had other friends that kind of were into the art thing, and they were accepted. I was kind of upset and disappointed, but I turned that energy around into inspiring me not to not believe, but to believe that they just don't understand this level, or, because
The subjectivity wasn't in their wheelhouse, maybe, and then today that same portfolio might be the bomb. And someone said,
Mhm. So as I grew up in my career and I started adapting more, and after I was finished high school, a regular high school, I tried to go to art college, and at that point, my parents didn't have the money to put me through the school. So I remember my dad was saying, you're gonna have to get some type of scholarship or sponsorship. And I said, all right, Dad, I'm gonna show them what I have, and I'm gonna get this. And I never forget, I went to this organization that gives these scholarships, and I remember she looked at my book, and it was real fast. I think one page she paused for maybe 1.5 seconds and then kept going. And she was like, "I'm sorry, there's no jobs in this field, and I'm not gonna approve for you to get this grant to go to this school." And I'm like, "But miss, maybe there's one, and I'm gonna try my best to get this job, And at the time, because my portfolio was kind of a little bit of graffiti and characters and stuff like that, she didn't understand, because the terminology back then is graffiti doesn't pay.
wasn't mainstream yet.
It wasn't at all.
Museum hanging,
No, it wasn't at all. There was no.
multi-million-dollar price tags.
No, it was still considered a crime, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
So, but to me, it was not. It was my life. It's what I've done.
So she turned you down.
She turned me down. So I went back to my dad and I said, "Dad, they didn't accept me." And I didn't know what he was going to say, but the next thing he said is a point that turned my life. He goes, "Well, you know what this means, right?" And I said, "What, Dad?" He goes, "You're going to have to work harder, study harder, do better than the guy that graduates. You're going to have to." And I was like, wow.
On your own, without a curriculum.
But him saying that to me, it was like he believed in me. There was no, like, "Well, you're gonna have to do something else then, son." No, it wasn't none of that. He said, he just made me see that I can continue to believe in myself, that he believed in me. And I must say, that did more for me than probably going to the 4 years of school, to be honest. Because for those next 4 years, I just went relentlessly on studying and studying. My friends were hanging out, and I would see them and, "Hey, what's up, fellas?" But then I'd go back up to doing what I had to do.
Are you studying the masters? Are you studying what you like? What are you studying?
I was studying how to make whatever, like, one of the issues that I had growing up was people would be like, "Wow, that's amazing." But it was never what I had in my mind. In my mind, it was more amazing. So,
And have you always drawn with two hands at this point? Are you
no,
amazing?
not then. I was
okay.
still doing. I'm a left-handed artist, so I was still just with the left hand.
Okay.
And but it wasn't. I was doing stuff that people were loving and accepting and showing their appreciation to it. But to me, I was still in that stage where it wasn't what I saw. I saw it a little better. I saw it different. I saw it, in a way that it had more life to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would learn on how to achieve that, not knowing, like, I would go whether the books to libraries to art stores and try to find these other books and like airbrush books and how they achieve these looks, you know. And while I was going and doing that, I got a job as a messenger and running through the streets of New York and delivering
Give me the
packages.
timeline. So
Okay.
80, 84, 85?
I would say 87, 88.
Okay.
Now I'm a messenger, you know.
But
now
you got a portfolio, you're
got a portfolio.
crafting, and you're,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
riding the wild streets of New York where
Yeah.
you could have gotten killed probably.
Right, but I was by foot too. It wasn't a bike
Oh,
messenger.
you were walking. Oh,
yeah.
my bad.
Back then it was no emails like it is now,
Right.
you know. So even a little letter had to go across the street. I
Absolutely.
was the one kind of taking it. But my feet were killing me after a while of doing that. I went to my boss. She was so cool. And I'm like, look, I can't walk anymore. My corns are killing me, you know.
My corns are aching.
Yeah. So she goes, you know what, Steve, I'm going to put you in the mailroom and one of our other branches. It happens to be a mailroom at the Viacom building.
Oh no.
When now in the
Oh,
Viacom
no.
building.
Now you're in the nest.
Yes, now I'm in the Viacom building without even knowing, but I'm pushing a car that's nice and warm inside.
1515 Broadway.
That's correct. That's correct. So I was on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd floor. I forget which ones, but I think 23rd was MTV, 22nd was VH1,
And in its heyday,
something like that.
it is
yeah.
on fire.
Yeah.
And you're in the mailroom,
And I'm pushing
soaking it
around.
all in,
Yeah.
watching,
Yeah.
checking
and
it
I'm
out.
pushing my cart. I'm like, I was mostly in the Beavis and Butthead floor when they were doing back when they were putting things on fire and stuff,
Right.
and kids were following them. But I'm there just delivering packages, and I got friendly with the receptionist, and I was like, well, you know, I'm an artist, and I would love to show you my work one day. She said, yeah, bring it in. So one day I did, and it was about a week later, and I did, and I had on the bottom of my carriage, I pulled it out, and I'm like, oh, here, when you get a chance, let me know what you think. And I went on to do my deliveries, and when I came back, she's like, are you in the mailroom? And I was like, yeah, I did.
Not anymore.
And she goes, do you mind meeting someone? And she picked up the phone and she called Steve Thomas from Nickelodeon. If he ever sees this, I would love for him to get in touch with me so I can thank him, because he was one of the first to...
Steve Thomas.
Yeah, Steve Thomas with Nickelodeon, Nick at Night it was. And they had a brochure pamphlet that they needed characters in it, and for diversity, for that month, it was diversity month with the organization.
And this again is in its heyday. Now graffiti is more part of the culture, and the whole street art and self-taught art is part of the culture.
Yeah.
And here they find, it's like a Cinderella story. So you meet Steve, and then what happens?
So then Steve is like, hey, you're in the mailroom? I was like, yeah.
He hands you a job.
He
says,
goes, you
"This
need
is
a
what
job?
you-"
Yeah. Come see me tomorrow morning, and that was the beginning of my break. And I remember going back out to the hallway, grabbing the cart and putting my portfolio in there, and I'm crying my eyes out, and
Trying to figure out who you want to tell first.
Yeah. Well, the first
Mom,
thing I
Dad,
did,
yeah.
well, I told my boss, I said, hey, they want to see me tomorrow.
On the 23rd floor in the office, not delivering mail.
And that's how my career actually started. With that, now I had some work with a professional, Nickelodeon, and I still have that piece. I can't wait to show you that piece. That's my very first.
We're going to put that up in a montage
yeah.
somehow when we just.
So
that's wonderful.
Then there was an opportunity with Warner Brothers, and doing a licensing. There was a Warner Brothers licensing company doing product with their characters. And when I went in there, I remember there was like 5 other guys with suits and really, really nice portfolios, and I came in just dressed in jeans.
Just as you are?
Yeah, like
your style?
Yeah, my style, and my smaller portfolio that was full of graffiti, and one.
But now you got the Nick at Night experience. Yeah. You've been there for a spell, right?
Yeah.
So word must have gotten out to get this interview. How did they want to see you? How did that come about?
There was the same receptionist told me, hey, there's also another opportunity over here. And I'm like, wow. Her name was Liz. I hope if she sees this one day, maybe she comes out, and I would like to give her a hug and thank her for
Oh my God.
So now I went to the interview with the Warner Brothers, and I got hired. I got hired for it. And I remember as I'm working, and I'm so happy, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing what I love to do, and it's because I was in charge of doing the Tasmanian Devil, Wile E. Coyote, and Bugs Bunny, but dressed up. So for me, it was like I took the graffiti characters and just put their heads on it almost in a way, and so I kept dressing them in a cool way, and the vision that I was with went from the division I was with went from 18 million to 80 something million in that year that I was with the company. And then I became the art director. But before that happened, I told my art director, I said, why, can I ask you a question? Why you pick me? And she said, you know, Steve, everyone in that meeting had the credentials, the right, everything to be hired.
Right.
But you are totally different. And we want it different. And you have become just a shining star for us. And I got raises, and just that was the beginning of a really beautiful career.
It's been said you were the youngest art director at Warner at the time.
With that licensing company, yes, that division. And I was doing the T-shirts, so they were going all over America. They were in all these big department stores.
That must have felt good.
Yeah, well, it did, but I remember one day I was in one of the department stores and I saw a kid wearing the shirt that I did. Right. And he's like running around, and he ran, and I said, hey, how you doing? I did that shirt. He goes, no, you didn't. My mommy brought me this, and ran off. And I said, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm trying to rob or kidnap this kid.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well, we're halfway through, Steve. Okay. And I know we're not even close to describing your trajectory. So you moved on to be a very young art director. You're working with some very iconic imagery that I grew up with even. I mean, these characters have been around. Chuck Jones, I think, created.
Yes.
And you're working with like the Cadillac of animation. What's next? What happened next?
Well, after that, then one of the things that I went through while going through that, because when I do things for kids, I do encourage to go to school, even though for me it worked out because I didn't give up and I still studied a lot. You know, I was on top of that. It wasn't like it just, oh, he's talented. You have to also do a little bit of the studying and research and trial and errors. The biggest error is not to do that. Okay, so I always tell kids to go.
So you went back and got your education, your formal education.
Well, I got hired, so my education became through me working and now getting the check. And so this was one of the issues I was having while at the job. My art director would be like, I like this. Give me a 3-point lighting and let's see what that looks like. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll go back to the other artists and I'm like, hey, she says she wants a 3-point lighting. What is that? And they go, oh, that's when the light's here, here, here. I was like, oh, I'm gonna give her the 4-point lighting. Watch this. Shazam. I just didn't know the terminology of certain things and what things were called, or even if they had names. Right. I just thought I was doing it because of the way I visually was looking at things, you know. But
maybe that naivete about not knowing all the terms kept you more pure in creation.
I think so, and I think also because you have mentioned how sometimes a kid that wants to do a certain type of art is learning something else that he's probably not interested in. You know, eventually that something else will tie into what you want to get into. However, for me, I didn't go through that time where I was learning things I didn't want to do, you know? So I think because I have multiple skills now and I bring them to a really good level, like I can keep up with agencies almost. And that's how the second hand came into the picture. Okay.
Act 2.
Yeah, Act 2 is, so after I established a great career and I went from the Warner Brothers, I went to Disney licensing and I did stuff with the Pixar brand and Marvel, and I've changed from costume things to, I broke rules and I got corrected on it, and then it was like, wait a minute, that's kind of cool that you broke that, you know, and I inspired a lot of people and they inspired me, you know. So I started doing stuff for the public and people, anyone, because whether you're a big organization or just one person that wanted something painted of someone they loved or whatever it was, I'm more than happy because I believe blessings are given for you to be a blessing onto others.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Did that lead you to some more intimate friendships with other artists, let's say?
Yeah, just other people and humans. It just made me connect to a level where I started hearing things I didn't even believe, or not believe, but like, wow, these wonderful things people were saying about the art and about me, and I always felt like I had to give back. I had to do things for the kids. I had to be there at events, whether I made $1 or no dollars. It was my form of giving back because I was that kid that was grateful that look how far I've gotten to without even having certain opportunities.
That's a good payback or
Yeah.
pay it forward, or I don't even know what they call it,
Yeah.
but just good way to live.
Yeah, it's a blessing to get. How could I, that was the other thing. How could I deceive anyone with my blessing? Like, how could I not fulfill certain projects or do certain events, talk to certain kids or schools or just share my story? So I did that. At the same time as I'm doing that, the workload became tremendous. And I'm like, I couldn't keep up with the workload. Even to this day, I can't keep up to the workload. And I'm over there trying to just get things done, and this hand is just dangling there doing nothing. I'm like,
here we go.
Get your ass up and like
do the
help
background
me.
or something.
Help! You're just dangling there, chilling,
Uh-huh.
And that's what happened. I started just bringing it in, and
Wow.
and I started doing forms and shapes. I've been asked this before. It's a different job for it to do. On the other hand, so I'm a left-handed artist where I do the detail with the left hand, but with the right hand, that's how I create the forms and the shapes, and I create gestures and I create balance and perspectives. Yeah, it enhances. Then when it comes to the detail, it comes back to my left hand.
Gotcha.
And then eventually I started doing some detail with it, just if the artwork is in that angle, instead of just going like this, I'll just let the hand
help it out.
Yeah, help it out. And then, and sometimes it's not like, then I have to come in and tighten it up if I have to do that. But I am using both hands as I design now, And now I don't even think, because that's the other thing. If I think about what I'm doing with the other hand, it just doesn't happen. It's like something.
And that technique, unless people get to know you and get to experience a friendship or a kidship to your style, and they don't know this. They don't know that you're using two hands.
No, they don't. Even sometimes I don't.
That's funny.
I just know that things are a little better now, but I'm not going to try to draw with my feet. I'm not doing that. So we're not going to be seeing that. Plus, you don't want to see my feet. So
that's funny.
But now I'm developing product, and I'm making. That's the next area of my career. It's heading towards making product and having my license. Behind me is one of the first licenses that it's already been over Canada and a few other places, and now it's going to be hitting New York for the next year. Really hard.
I mean, I'm sorry if I keep gazing behind you, because it's very eye-arresting. Like, there's so much happening and so much story and so much detail to the shoelaces, to the rings, to the reflections. I mean, it's just,
even like the guy that's breakdancing, he's all twisted up because that's the impression you get.
The guy in the lead jeans. The other. Okay.
In the lead jeans, and if you look, there's a part on his elbow. He's got a Band-Aid and it's just
some loose change coming out of his back pocket.
It's like he's truly in that movement, and so it's a little bit of every part of the hip hop culture, because this year coming up is going to be the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So there's
a museum being created. If I'm not mistaken, it's open.
Yes, I believe it's open, and I know all the amazing people that have made that museum exist, and I can't wait to have some of my artwork in there. So,
As an artist, Steve, do you have kind of a routine to get started, or is there a certain kind of ritual that you just, I'm going to just paint today, or I'm going to draw today? No, you have to probably have some kind of structure, don't you?
Yeah, the biggest structure is how I'm feeling.
So you're feeling good.
I feel good, then let's do this.
The bills are paid, there's food in the fridge, now it's time,
Yeah, it starts like that. Especially my cast tunes. The cast tunes are all, they were on a commute to my job when I was at Warner Brothers, or it was on some type of commute to another project. Those happen, I never know what is going to come out of those. The cast tunes come from the heart, and I have many of them. For many years I've not shown the world yet, and I'm excited to be able to show the world this, because it truly says it's a story.
That's the answer to what's coming up next, I would assume, right? That's what's coming up next
That's
for you?
what's coming up next, yes.
All right. Cast tunes, be
Yeah,
on the lookout.
Yeah.
I feel very honored to hear about this announcement, but
Yes, yes.
you'll know when and where and how to release such excitement. Speaking about excitement, is there a favorite movie or book that you always kind of refer yourself to or think about or say, oh man, what would so-and-so do, or what?
Right. Well, when I was a kid, there was this gigantic book. It was red. It was called the Art of Animation for Disney, and it showed some of the old style, the way they animated traditionally, but looking at the line work and the way the characters are formed and the way the fabrics, that book for me as a kid truly did so much for me, because it let me move it in my mind, and that became an issue because at the time I didn't have this programs or
There's no internet.
yeah, there was like
The library's not going to have that book.
yeah, but I had that book, and I was that book, I ate it up. I'm talking about like every letter, every page. I would just stay mesmerized in it.
Where do you like to kick back and unplug? Is this, we're looking at it?
Yeah, this is it. And when I'm unplugging, I'm actually I'm still doing what I do, but it's what I want to do. Okay. It's not what, that's another key thing. It's like I can take care of clients and do what they want and revise it to the way they want. If I feel really strongly about the idea and I think it's not that cool, then I'll try to add some points of how it could be a little better. And then if I'm dealing with a stubborn client, I'll be like, hey, because you said that gave me this idea. Wow, that's brilliant. What if we did it this way? And they're like, yeah, I like that.
Nice.
So it's using a little bit of psychology on certain
A little
people.
reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Speaking of psychology, do you have a personal trait you're not very proud of? For instance, like maybe...
Yes, I do, actually.
Let's hear it.
I have it's really a bad trait, but it's because I've grown up doing what I do, and I've been able to do it the best I can with all the challenges. I'm truly pride myself, and it's very, very important that I do the best I can. That's number one. If I'm doing it for someone and I get disrespected by that person in some form or another, my hands can't move. I can't draw it. I can't finish it. I can't. And I may be not right. It may be right. It may be whatever it is. But if I feel offended or disrespected in any type of way,
down.
My hands can't move. And it won't do it. And you will not get it, And so that's probably one of the traits that it's because, you know what, if I don't respect myself, how do I expect the world to respect me or my artwork? So because of my journey and how difficult it's been, and how when I was a kid I heard, hey, you're Hispanic, you're from Harlem, you don't have a degree.
Good luck.
Yeah, chances are you're not going to make it. And I remember when he said that, and I was able to turn it around, and I always say the hater will make me greater. And it made me go even harder. And thank God I haven't ever see that person again, because maybe I don't know if I will get a fulfillment of saying, look at me now or what, but I hope I never see him again, because I can't wait to see what else is coming.
So you would say the trait is an unbridled anger based on rejection, perhaps? And
probably, but not being able to go to the schools you wanted to, and always being told no, 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 and no, and no. And I was like, you know what? Why not?
Right.
Why can't I? And I will. And I did. And here I am with you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much, Steve. We are in the third turn. We are kind of coming to a little more of a conclusion, although I know the story is far but over with you. There's
Absolutely.
A lot to tell. Baskin Robbins calls often and wants to start up a new ice cream flavor using our celebrity's name, Cas, Steve Cas. What would we call that ice cream, and what would it taste like?
It'll be fantastic.
Castastic?
Fantastic.
Castastic. Ingredients, what's the main?
It's got some cookies and creams in there. It's a vanilla flavor.
Nice.
Yeah, which is one of my favorites.
Castastic.
Yeah, it's Castastic ice cream. There we go.
Maybe it's got a little color to it too, a little
maybe
bright orange or something.
A few M&Ms in there or something.
Perfect. Regrets. I've had a few, Steve. Have you had any regrets in life, or have you had one that you just say?
I do. I wish that I wasn't so hard on myself when I was younger, and my determination was relentless, and I was stubborn. There was things I didn't like. even when I used to go to the trains to paint graffiti, my mom would be like, you're gonna break your hand, you're gonna get a cast on your hand. That's actually how my name came about.
Is that right?
Yeah, so, because she always in Spanish, it was like the T wasn't there. I see you with a cast, I see you with a cast.
Interesting, the secret comes out. The revelation for the fans out there that need to know.
Yeah, but
Mom gave it to you, Cas.
Yeah, my mom. It's just been art for me every single day.
Well, as my therapist says, we can't live in the past or base our past regrets on the future. So it's a tough thing to do. I mean, it's easy to say, tougher to do.
Well, I'm planning a vacation after this interview, so I'm gonna
Where
take
you going?
some time off. I don't even know. It could be right here with nobody bothering me.
Gotcha.
It's just it's gonna be a vacation. Yes, yeah.
Oh, cool.
But it might be on a plane. I think I'll be going out to Miami, Florida for a little while, and I got a few events there. But I'll be able to slice it in the middle and kind of take some time for myself.
I just love the color down there, the blue, the water, the everything, the architecture.
I'm going down for the Art Basel.
You're going to Art Basel?
Yes, I'm going to be on it.
Is that your first go-around?
It's going to be my first one.
Oh, you are going to go nuts.
Really?
From what I've been told now, Over It has never been invited, but some of my friends have gone, and they say it's unforgettable. As patrons, as artists, and as casual observers. So whether you're going to fit into all three of those categories at one point or another, and you're just going to...
Well, I got a space there, and they're going to be showing... they said,
you're not even just... You got a space.
Yeah, I got a space there. And
people are going to know.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to come up with like 10 of the... something amazing, and I'm over here like, you know what? I might take a month vacation just to do those 10, and it's going to be... I hear they're going to sell for some nice money, and the world's going to know, and finally...
Listen, I mean, I don't want, with sounding ignorant on my own show, I do know a lot of elite and collectors and big money makers are going to be there, and what they like to do is outbuy their friends. They're like, oh, you paid $1 million for that? I'm going to pay $2 million for this next thing. I'm not throwing $1 million out there to cast any dreams, but...
I'm already rich. I'm already a millionaire.
You feel
with the
very...
blessings that I have and the things I've heard from people, and I'm just, this already is a dream come true for me. So I'm already in a wonderful place. And for the people that have absorbed my art and loved it, thank you. And for those that didn't, thank you too. It's okay. I know that the ability to make someone feel is a blessing in itself. And I've taken that to make sure that all my artwork has a positive message. It's an uplifting message.
No doubt.
My story is a story of that guy that they said no to, and he refused to believe that and say yes, and why not? And he did, and here I am doing it, and the best that I can.
Well, you're answering all the last three good questions, which is, do you have a motto and words to live by? You just told me your words to live by. Is there a slogan that goes with it, or is it just...
Yeah, well, I realized I gave in, I gave out, but I never ever gave up.
You gave in, you gave out.
But I never gave up.
That's good. And the future's looking bright. We've already talked about the future.
The future's here. The future's now.
I am your Looney Tune Red Balloon host, and this has been a very special Over It with Steve Cas. Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If I've learned anything at all from your wisdom today, that wisdom being live simply, love generously, give deeply, and speak kindly.
There you go. Thank you.
And just remember, be positive, test negative. Thanks for watching.
Όλα ακούγονται μαύρα και άραχνα.